Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Leslie with the New Mexico Small Business Development Center, and I'm always proud to introduce everyone to Eric Spellmann because Eric, he gives us such great information, and I'm excited about this today because I was wondering, oh, do I want to do online videos or not? But I thought, you know what? Let's find out and see if it's going to be easy for my small business or your small business. So if you have any questions throughout the entire webinar, type them into the Q&A because Eric picks them up and he'll answer all the questions that come in. So let's sit back and learn about 10 amazing online video ideas for your business.
Thank you, Leslie. And yes, this will be a lot of fun. And as always, there's going to be a lot of information. I swear, I put in so much information into this presentation that I could probably do an 8-hour talk on it. But don't worry about writing everything down. Like I always say, my wonderful host will be making the entire presentation available for download, or they'll send it to you. So don't feel like you have to write down every single point. What I want you to do is write down ideas you get during my presentation that might help you. And yes, they will help you because, folks, if you are not doing video, your competition probably is. And we want to make sure that you stay ahead of them. So let's dive right into it. Why video? Because that's the number one question I get. A lot of people go, Eric, really? Video? Are you sure? Yes. And I know why you're asking these questions. It's because, can we talk? You just don't want to do it. There's something about it that makes you nervous, something about it that makes you scared. You thinking maybe you're not qualified. Shut up. You are. Okay. Everyone is. If you can talk to a potential customer and convince them to buy your product or service, you're more than qualified to talk to the world. And remember, when you're on video, it's not like you're on a stage, people. That's one of the biggest fears people have is they think, you know what, I just get stage fright. Well, guess what? You're not on a stage because only one person at a time is watching your video. Remember that. So if you can have a conversation with one person about what you do, you can do this. So why video? It is the most popular media today. Can we talk? It is the most popular media today. More than blogs, more than just photos of stuff. People want to watch video. You also got to remember that from a psychological standpoint, everyone is lazy and has ADD, okay? Including you, including me. And what I mean by that is from a lazy standpoint, people would rather watch a video than read a blog about the same subject. Because when you're watching a video, you're not having to read. It's less work. I know. That's what I mean by lazy. People would rather watch a video how-to than read a full web page full of how-tos. Now, the ADD part is even more important. All I mean there is that when people would rather watch a video because they have no patience, okay? They want their answer now. And the younger you are, the more ADD you have, the more you demand to know the answer as quickly as possible, and you're not willing to wait. And that's the beauty of video. And if you remember those 2 points about how people react and about how people operate in this world, you're going to be well on your way to successful video creation. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that you should be hosting all your videos on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. Not some of these other places, these other video hosting, no. And you definitely shouldn't put any of your videos on your website. Now, what I mean by that is you should host them on your website. You shouldn't be uploading them to your website. And the reason I say that is because if your video suddenly goes viral, if your video suddenly becomes very popular and everyone is trying to watch it in HD from your website ain't going to be able to handle that. And it's going to take it down, or worse yet, your videos will be all herky-jerky, and you know what I mean by that. YouTube, all my videos are on YouTube, not on my website. Now, I embed them on my website to where you think you're watching them on my website, but really it's all coming from YouTube. And that's because 1 million people could be watching my videos simultaneously in HD and it not affecting them. YouTube can handle that. You also got to realize that it is the second most popular search engine on planet Earth. Number one is Google. Number two is YouTube. When people have a question about anything, the second place they go to is YouTube. That's right. You'd be surprised how much traffic my own website gets from YouTube. People who found one of my videos on YouTube and then go from there to my website. So if you're not on YouTube, you're missing out on a lot of customers and a lot of potential customers. Also remember, people connect with people, not businesses. I'm going to say that again. People connect with people, not businesses. If all you're doing is writing a blog for your website, our company wants you to know this, blah, 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 blah. No, people don't connect with that. They connect with people. Why do you think Progressive has flow? People connect with people. You understand what I'm saying? When you have video, you're showing the face and you, hopefully the owner, of your company. And so people connect with you. And people many times will like a company because they like who runs it. They go, you know what? They seem honest. You know what? I feel like I could understand what they tell me. You know what? They look trustworthy. So you got to remember, video is one of the most amazing things in that it can help you connect with another person because they can look you in the eye. Here's some important things to remember about video. Number one, what I'm doing now, talk to the lens and be yourself. The hardest things people do many times, and one of the biggest mistakes they make, is they'll take their phone and they'll flip it around to where they can kind of see what they look like, and they'll film that way. The problem is you're going to end up watching the screen of you talking and not the lens. You got to look people in the eye, people. And I mean, look them in the eye, which means you looking at the lens of your camera, looking at the lens of your camera phone. The way to do it, and the way I do it, is I just pretend that the lens of my, in this case, laptop, the lens of my laptop is my best friend, and I'm just talking to him, and I'm just looking him in the eye. And once you get used to that, you're going to start connecting with people, because that really is the key. If you're just looking at your screen, people can tell you're not looking at them, and you won't connect with them like I'm doing now. You look them in the lens, which is looking them in the eye, and be yourself. You don't need to be Walter Cronkite. You don't need to be Peter Jennings. You don't need to be, who you see on TV. Don't put on airs. Don't deepen your voice. Don't try to have a TV personality. No. Do you do that in your business when someone walks in and says, tell me about what you do? No. You are yourself, which means you need to talk like yourself. Keep it short. I'll just say that again. Your video better be short. Now, I've got some videos out there that are, they're like 20 minutes long, some of my how-to videos, but they don't get watched as much as my 5-minute videos. And that's kind of the magic number that I figured out, is my videos, in order to have enough people watch them, remember everyone has ADD, is you keep them around 5 minutes long, no longer than 5 minutes. Now, yeah, this video is an hour long, but think of it as a class. And I try to keep it interesting so you don't stop watching it. But most videos you make need to be around 5 minutes, no longer than that. And you got to realize that's because people watch videos when they're waiting in line, when they're, waiting for their kids to get out of school, or in the commercial breaks, of a TV show, or, you know what I'm saying? They don't have a lot of time. And so keep it short, because I'm here to tell you, YouTube actually watches how long people watch your video. And on average, all my videos, including the long ones, people stop watching around 4.5, 5 minutes, unless it's a really good video. Create an intro and an outro, and those are words you need to understand. Every video you make should have an intro, which means a tiny little 5 to 10 second introduction. Who it is, who you are, your company, bam. Hey, it's another, and that way people, are confirmed that, yeah, they clicked on the right video. But also you start remembering it, kind of like brand awareness. They start remembering that thing over and over and over. It's kind of like, y'all remember watching Love Boat? when you watch Love Boat, all of us can almost sing the song by heart. You know what I'm saying? And that's because that was the intro to the show. And they played it over and over and over, and it branded the show. That's what an intro to a video does. Oh, and an outro. The outro is the opposite of an intro. It's something you have at the end, and it's very important. This is not where you put the credits. This is where you put your call to action. In other words, hey, hope you enjoyed this video. Watch my other videos. Hey, go to my website. Hey, if you want a free this and that, go here, go there, go subscribe to my channel. That's what I'm saying. This is where you put your call to action. This is where you tell people what to do, because people, I'm telling you, that's the whole purpose of these videos, not just for your ego. It is for your business to succeed. It is for you to get more customers, which means at the end of the video, tell them where to go to get more of you. You know, in my videos, my outro pretty much is, got a question, let me know, or go to my website, see my other videos. Use copyright-free music. Now, there's so much of it out there. And in fact, YouTube has a bunch of it you can just stick on your video. I mean, they have their own little list of copyright-free music. And you know what I mean by copyright? You can't just put up the latest song by Lady Gaga on your video and expect that to work. No, YouTube gonna shut that down because you don't have the right to do that. And trust me, it's very easy to have copyright flags thrown at you. You're not gonna get arrested per se, because YouTube just won't let your video go public. Okay, and video checks that. It has these filters that look for copyrightable music. So always use copyright-free music. And I would recommend you use some music. And you might have to sit and look for some. And it might be a little louder in the beginning during the intro, but then you might even have just a little bit of it really low during the video. Music just helps them set a mood for a video. And people, lighting. I can't tell this enough. This is probably the most important tip of all. Lighting is the most important thing, and it's the biggest mistake people make with videos. They don't have enough of it. You need lighting from everywhere. You need lighting so there's no shadows. And you just need more. If you see one shadow in your video, you need more lighting. Okay, and you just keep putting up more lighting. Why do you think the lighting on stage and TV sets, you know, sets at like news stations, if you've ever been to one, why do you think they have so much lighting? And if you sit on a stage, that lighting is blinding, but it gets rid of all the shadows and it makes it easier for people to see. Okay, the only way to get rid of shadows is to have a ton of lighting. And even if all you do is go out and buy some cheap lamps at Walmart and take the hoods off of them and just have bare bulbs everywhere, that works. I mean, no one's saying you have to go buy a complicated light set, you know, expensive this or that, you know, stage props, things like that. No, just get it cheap. I'll be honest, what I like to do sometimes is get those little desk lamps from Walmart. They're like $2, and they have those little flexible necks on them where you can kind of aim the light where you want. That's great for getting rid of shadows in specific places. And yeah, you're going to film your video in HD, okay? HD, 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 nothing lower than that, because every screen out there is HD. And you got to realize a lot of people are going to watch your YouTube video on their big screen TV. And if you film in anything lower than HD quality, you're going to look all fuzzy, okay? HD only, people. So if you're going to buy a camera, if you're going to buy even a camera for your, you know, for your Zoom conferences, make sure it's HD, okay? Hold on, just checking my questions. My former client put their videos on Vimeo. What do you think of Vimeo? No, I would just put them on YouTube. To be honest, I've played with Vimeo. They have a good service, but I would just put them on YouTube. I just get more traction on YouTube, mainly because YouTube has just more general search traffic. I get more random people on YouTube than anywhere else. So yeah, I've heard of Vimeo. I played with Vimeo, but I would just use YouTube. Okay. Watch some Blendtec. Some of y'all are going to go, Eric, when are you going to get to your top 10 ideas? It's the next slide, so just hold on. Watch some Blendtec. Okay, now Blendtec is a company founded by a guy named Tom Dickinson, who you see, or Dixon, here you see in the picture below. Now, what they make are commercial blenders. Now, by commercial blenders, I mean like what you have in your kitchen. You know, you put ice in, it chops it up, or you make smoothies with it, that kind of blender. But they make expensive blenders. I mean, they start at $500 and go all the way up to, yes, almost $3,000 for a blender. Okay. They sell blenders for restaurants and bars. And you got to realize that in restaurants and bars, where you make your most money is in blended drinks, because most of it's water, most of it's ice. So you make a ton of profit on that. And so on a Friday night, if your blender blade breaks, or if your blender, breaks in some way, you're going to lose a lot of money. So his competitive advantage, in other words, what makes his blenders better than everyone else's and worth the price, is they don't break. They'll cut through anything. So what he did, he didn't have a lot of money to push this. So he went on YouTube and he made a video. And the video was basically, showing off how strong his blender was. But he acted very serious. And in the beginning, he was serious. But he was so serious, it became funny. And so he would put like an iPhone in a blender and say, will a Blendtec blender blend an iPhone? Will it blend? Let's find out. And he actually puts the iPhone in his blender, puts the lid on it, and turns it on. And sure enough, it takes it down to powder. And you watch the whole thing on video. And then at the end, he pulls the lid off, pours out all the dust on the table, and goes, yes, it will blend. And that's the end of the video. That's it. It's a short little video. His videos are usually about 2.5 minutes long. And then he just kept making more videos. Will this blend? Like in the picture, he blended a rake. He blends marbles. Oh, one of the more fun ones was when he blended big lighters. That was interesting. And he's blended action figures. He's blended tree branches. He's blended the craziest stuff you can even think of. And he takes it like it's a laboratory experiment. And he takes himself so serious that it's funny. And the reason it works, and he's sold tons of his blenders and has almost 1 million followers, and his videos have been watched hundreds of millions of times and have gone viral so many times. The reason it works is because one of the basics of human psychology is we like watching stuff get destroyed. We really do. We're fascinated by watching stuff get destroyed. And so he stumbled into that, and he sells a lot of blenders because of it. So yeah, if you get a chance, if you want to see the kind of videos I'm talking about, look up Will It Blend on YouTube, and you'll find all of his videos there. And they are, trust me, you'll get hooked on them. So let's talk about the top 10 ideas for you to make videos about. Number 1, the review. In other words, where you're going to review something. You're going to give your opinion on something. Now, the key, keep in mind, on all these ideas, it's got to be tied to your company in some way. We're not just doing this for fun and giggles, okay? You have to somehow receive a benefit to your company in some way, either through branding or through driving customers to buy something, but there's got to be some benefit to your company, okay? It's not just about your ego and, oh, look, I'm famous. It's also not just about, just having fun and making people laugh. Oh, looks like we have questions. Let's see. Do iPhones film in HD? Yes, they do. All the newer phones film in HD. So yes, you can use your iPhone, but remember what I said about using your phone to film. Do not face it the way where you can see the screen, where you can see what you look like. Number 1, that's not the best camera anyway. You need to face it away from you. And yeah, that means you're going to have to, if it's only you, you're going to have to go look at it, make sure you're in the frame, and then come sit back down, or have someone help you. But your job is to look in the lens. If you turn the camera around where you're seeing what you're doing, you're going to look at that screen and you won't connect with people. What about Instagram and Facebook? Yes, the videos you make, great question, Yvonne. The videos you make, and I made one about TikTok last time, but the videos you make, you can throw them up on there too. And you can just take the same video and upload it. But keep in mind, Instagram and Facebook videos are typically shorter. Like if you do a video on YouTube, you can put it on Facebook where people can watch it. Okay, Instagram is a little different in that you may just want to upload. You may just want to upload the video directly to Instagram on those cases. Okay, but keep them even shorter on Instagram. I mean, you almost have to, kind of like TikTok. Great question. Okay. Keep in mind that when you do the review, when you review a product or a service in your industry, you're setting yourself up as an expert. And remember this, people would rather do business with an expert than a salesman. I'll say that again, write it down. People would rather do business with an expert, not a salesman. So whenever you set yourself up as an expert by doing a review, and people tend to believe if they watch something on TV that those people are somehow experts, you know, and so whether they are or aren't. So it does set you up as an expert, and it helps to increase the trust in what you say and what you do. Choose a popular item to review. You'd be surprised how many products and services that if you put the name of the product and then add the word review, you'll find it on YouTube. I mean, reviews are very popular. Like before people go buy something, many times they'll go on YouTube and they'll type blah, blah, blah review because they want to know what people think of it before they buy it. So choose a popular item and you're automatically going to start being found on YouTube. I mean, think of it as search bait. Okay. I'm not saying bait and switch. I'm not saying trick people, not at all. What I am saying is choose the most popular product in your industry or something that you know something about and review that. I discovered that when you start doing reviews, and some of my videos that I did were reviews of software. And I wasn't trying to get anything out of it. But what ended up happening is some of these vendors found my videos and they started sending me their software for free, hoping that I would do another review. You know, and I know a lot of people, YouTube influencers, if you will, who they receive tons of free stuff all the time. And the reason they receive that is because number one, their audience is large. And the vendor either hopes they will wear whatever it is or use whatever it is or reference whatever it is. And they'll send them free stuff. So that's one of the sidelines. You don't want to do it for that reason because guess what? It'll end up tainting your reviews. You gotta be honest. You really do. And if something is awful, you got to say it's awful. Okay. And I've even one time I gave a bad review on something, a video review, and they still sent me their free software going, oh, you didn't try it right. Try it again and please give us another review. So you never know. Be honest though, because your audience, if they think you're just being paid as a paid mouthpiece for that company, they want a legitimate review. Reviews can really drive a lot of people to your website. Number two, you can use your videos for training. This is what I do. This is what my videos are. And like I said, I've had over we now just broke 1.8 million views on my videos about online marketing. And it has worked amazing. I've gotten so much business out of these videos from people all over the country. And I mean, like, I'm not just telling you things I've learned from other people. This actually benefited me. It sets you up, like I said, as an expert. Whenever you train someone in something, they don't see you as a salesperson. They see you as an expert. Now, keep in mind, I'm just letting you see behind the scenes on kind of what my secret goals and all of this is. Like, Eric, why do you do your videos? Well, because what I look for is places to speak. Like when a small business development center brings me in to speak to their clients, you know, at an event. And that actually happens quite a bit. Or a chamber of commerce or something like that. I'm a speaker. So what I'm trying to sell is my speaking services. And so my videos serve as a way for people to kind of try before they buy and to kind of see what kind of personality he has. Will he be interesting or boring? So that's kind of what my secret reason for doing my videos is. And that's how it benefits my business. Remember, it always has to benefit your business. And choose the subject you know about. Don't try to train people in something you don't know about because it will just burn you. Don't choose a subject because it's popular, you know, and then think you can train. No, all of you out there are experts at something. And don't you dare say I'm no expert. A lot of people say, Eric, I'm not an expert because I know people who are experts in my industry. So do I. Guess what? Listen to me. You don't get to decide whether you're an expert or not. Your customers do. Okay? You don't get to decide that. Just because you know someone out there who knows more than you about whatever it is, doesn't mean you're not an expert. You're an expert to somebody. In fact, you're probably an expert to a lot of people. So when people call you an expert, just say thank you. Okay? Because in their eyes, you are one. And like I said, your opinion doesn't matter on that issue. Choose a subject you know about, something that you are expert at. Maybe even it's what your passion is. Because if you choose what your passion is, like mine is public speaking about online marketing, when you choose something your passion comes through and your emotion comes through. And when you truly believe in what you say on a video, that comes across and it increases the trustworthiness you have. Keep it short. On training videos, keep it short. You know, like if I have a training I can do that would take like an hour to train on, I would rather break that up into 12 videos, 12 5-minute videos. So like I said, keep them 5 minutes. The most important thing is to keep it short. So if it's going to take you more than 5 minutes to train something, break it up into however many pieces you want, part 1, part 2, part 3, or just give them different names. With training videos, many times, one of the best things to do to help reinforce is kind of use a green screen in PowerPoint. And what I mean by that is if you watch my video, a lot of my videos, and in fact, this video right here, I'm kind of using a PowerPoint type of situation where you're seeing my points, but you're also seeing my face. And if you watch my videos at my, if you just look up Eric Spellmann and watch my videos, you'll see I do the same thing with a green screen, not on a Zoom format. And what that does is it reinforces visually what you're saying, but you need to be on there. It can't just be PowerPoint, people, because that is boring as heck. No one simply wants to watch a PowerPoint with narration over it. No, they need to see you. And if they see you talking, you're going to keep their interest. Okay, make sure there's no questions. Okay. Okay. Answer customer questions, number 3. That is one of the best things you can do. I mean, how many times is your front desk people, I mean, they're answering the phone and they're getting the same questions over and over and over. How many times are your salespeople getting the same questions over and over and over and over and over? Make a video and answer it. And then you can just send them the video where you can give them all the in-depth details they need. You know, if you're saying, well, it takes a good 10 minutes to answer this question every time, send them the video. I'm not saying refuse to talk to your clients. I'm saying the video can really help out with your customer service. So here's how you do it. Make a list of your FAQs, your frequently asked questions. Make a list. And you may need to go to your salespeople. You may need to go to your front desk or whoever answers the phone and say, what's the number 1 question we get? And then what's the number 2 question we get? What's the number 3 question we get? And make a separate video for each one. Prioritize them. Once you kind of get these, rank them and do them in the order of what the biggest questions are to the smallest questions. In fact, that's kind of how I made all my videos. Almost every one of my videos is based on questions I got asked. Like one of the first videos I ever made was how to choose a web developer, how to choose a web designer. Because I kept getting asked by people, Eric, I don't even know how to pick someone to design my website. So finally, I just made a video about it because I'll be honest, I was getting tired of doing the same speech over and over and over. What ended up happening though, was people started forwarding that video to their friends and I got business out of it from people I didn't send it to. It got sent to other people. And so anyway, like I said, people started seeing me not as a web developer, they started seeing me as an expert. And I got lots of business from that. So many times just answering customer questions can show that you're the kind of person people want to do business with. And whatever you do, don't laugh at your customers. Ever, 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 ever. Oh my gosh. Sometimes in your attempt to be funny, you may say, okay, here's the number 1 question we get. Gosh, I can't believe people would even ask this. Never, ever do that. I tell people all the time, I speak at a ground zero level. This ain't going to be a tech talk. This ain't going to be, I'm not going to use big words. You don't have to be a computer nerd to listen to me. And so I tell people up front, I promise this will be a ground zero. All questions are good. You ask any question you want, because I will never make fun of anybody. And you've got to do that with your own questions. So even if the questions that get asked of your company are the most ridiculous, asinine, stupid questions, you need to treat them as if they are great questions, and you need to reinforce that. By the way, that's one trick as a speaker to get more questions is you tell people that was, no matter how stupid the question was, you say that was a great question and you mean it, because that's what gives people the strength to ask questions. And some of y'all are going, Eric, you're telling us too much. Use plain English. Whenever you make your videos, your industry probably has lingo. In other words only used within your industry. I noticed this with realtors and bankers, is that there's a lot of words they throw around that I guess I'm supposed to know what they are, but I don't, so I feel stupid. And so if you start using those words and act like I'm supposed to know what they mean, that's not good. That's not good at all. So explain everything. If you're going to use some lingo, explain what it means, okay? Invite more questions. Always invite more questions. And this is good to go in the outro. If you're going to be doing these kind, it's almost like a, Ask Heloise or something like that, you want to say, hey, you got a question? Let me know. Email me if you got your questions. Because what that does is it actually starts setting you up as an expert, and it also gives you leads, whether you realize it or not. Okay? Invite questions. That's a great call to action, by the way. Got any questions? Let me know. And if you watch my videos, you'll see that is my call to action. Number 4, interview interesting people. This is a great video idea. But the key is to focus on them, not you. The thing about, look at the great interviewers. Look at Barbara Walters, look at Oprah, look at all the people who are, Diane Sawyer, the people who are great at interviewing. And you'll notice that they keep the focus on the other person. I've seen some interviews online, video interviews, where the camera is actually on the interviewer more than their guest. And the interviewer is almost like trying to show off how smart they are, and oh, there's a guest too. That's not what you do. You keep it focused on them. Make it about them, not you. You're still going to get credit. You're still going to get branding. But people are there to watch the interview. You ask the questions and choose your guests wisely. Make sure that it's not someone boring. I'm serious. If it's boring, no one's going to watch your video. They may be the biggest expert in the world, but if they can't talk about it in a way that doesn't put you to sleep, people, choose the fun people, okay? If you're going to interview people, choose fun people. I'll be honest, some of the best people to interview are teachers, because they know how to talk in plain English and they know how to get people's attention. And number 1, they love to talk. Look at me, right? Choose your guests wisely. Just because they're an expert lab rocket scientist doesn't mean they have the ability to keep my interest. So just be careful who you choose. Also choose people who won't go off on a tangent, that won't go off on like a political tangent or take it in a weird direction. Avoid the weird people. And you know what I mean by that. Don't ask boring questions. Some people, they'll go out and they'll look at an interview. What is the top interview questions? And they'll say, okay, those are my questions. No, you ask fascinating questions that people really want to know the answer to. There's a show on Bravo called Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. And his interviews are fascinating because a lot of times he will ask the question that no one else will, because it causes the guest to have to open up. Same with Barbara Walters. She will ask some pretty in-depth questions. They go deep, that hit deep. And so feel free to do that. And yeah, if you don't want to act like you're, ambushing someone. So you might even tell them the questions up front. And I think that's always a good idea. If you're going to interview someone, send them the questions ahead of time so that it can at least be thinking about their answers. You'll get a better interview that way. No boring questions. Make them interesting. Make them personal. And remember, you've got to make them out to be more famous than even they make themselves out to be. So in other words, when you say, oh, I can't wait for you to see, this person is amazing. She has the most extensive collection of blah, blah, blah. I've never seen anything better. Or this author wrote the most fascinating book. I couldn't put it down. In other words, as an interviewer, you need to promote them, because the more you promote them as someone worth listening to, the more people are going to watch your interview. Your job is to make them look more famous than they are. And be self-deprecating. What that means is make fun of yourself. Okay? Like if you're in an interview and you make a mistake, don't ignore it. Call yourself out. You know, and some of the best interviews out there. You want to see some good interviews, watch Good Morning America. And you know, Robin Roberts, she'll be talking to someone and she'll say something like, boy, Simone, I think it's Simone Biles, you know, boy, Simone, you can do the gymnastics. I could never do something like that. See, that's self-deprecating. I could never do that. Can't even get off the couch. I can't. Make fun of yourself, because that's entertaining to people. Okay. And it also shows that you don't have an ego the size of North America. Number 5, create an unboxing video. Oh, I love these things. An unboxing video. You know, an unboxing video is basically a reveal. And what I'm talking about is a box will arrive. The way the video looks is they'll say, hey, I'm about to open the blah, blah, blah. And it actually shows them opening the box and going, whoa, look at this. And some of y'all are going, why is that even interesting? It just is. And that's because everyone likes a reveal. That's what we call it. It's a psychological thing. There was a TV show on TLC that kind of proved this concept and ran with it. Y'all remember it? It was called Trading Spaces. Everyone was watching it. Why? Because they got two people who switched houses and completely redid a room or something in the house. And then what happened at the end? This is where the term the reveal came from, was that show. The reveal was when the audience finally gets to see the finished product. And I mean, the audience is invested in it because they watched different pieces of it going into play, but they never see the finished reveal until the very end. Well, with an unboxing video, that's exactly the same thing. People see a box and there's automatic curiosity. What's in the box? What's in the box? And everyone likes a mystery. It keeps them watching. Unboxing videos are great at keeping people till the end of the video. Be excited, because once it's kind of like the interview, the audience is only going to be as excited as you are. So you need to act excited about what's in the box too. It can't be like, oh, here's another box. Gosh, I hope it's not a this and that, blah, blah, blah. No, your attitude better be perky and excited and oh my gosh, it's like Christmas. What's in the box? My best example of this is Emmett, and he's a real person. He owns a saddle shop, and you got to realize he's like 85 years old. And he came into my office one day and he said, Eric, my grandson told me that I need to be on the YouTube. And yes, that's what he called it, the YouTube. And I said, okay, tell me what you do. And he goes, well, I make saddles. That's what I've always done my whole life. And yeah, he had a very Texas twang. I make saddles all my whole life. And Eric, I don't understand technology. I don't understand. What do I need to buy? And he pulled out his little yellow pad. He was ready to write down a list of things. And I told him, I said, Emmett, do you have a phone? And he goes, yep. And he pulled it out. It was an iPhone. And I said, Emmett, that's all you need. He said, what? And so then I told him, because I was thinking about what would be a good first video for him to make. And I suggested an unboxing video. And so basically, and I'm going to reenact this, this was his first video. So he's got his camera, kind of holding it up here, looking at it. And he says, hey, this is Emmett. Welcome to Emmett's Saddle Shop. I want you to know I just got a new bunch of skins for my next set of boots. Let's see what we got in there. So he cuts open the box and he aims the camera down to show him with this little box opener and opens the box, and he reaches inside and he pulls out this ostrich skin. And he says, oh my gosh, this is some of the best ostrich skin I've received in a long time. I think I can make about 3 pair or 4 pair if they're kids' boots. And like I said, I don't get this quality a lot. So if you want your boots made, you better call me quick before this is gone. I'll see you later. This is Emmett Saddle Shop. That was his whole video. He threw that up on Facebook. He sold out of that before the day was over. He had those custom boots ordered. It was simple. It was an unboxing video. People like watching an unboxing video, people. Number 6, if you're an artist, one of the best things you can do is create a time lapse. Now, time lapse simply means you're not filming the entire process, because who has hours or even days to watch a video, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to do a time lapse. And I'm not talking about anything funky and crazy. I'm talking about just filming pieces of what you do, okay? Just pieces. And then you're going to edit them together into a short video. Like, if you're going to do a painting, then you're going to start painting and let me watch you make the leaves on a tree. But you got to be talking to me while you do it. And tell me what's so hard about this. And tell me why you use those colors. I'm fascinated by the process. I'm fascinated in watching an artist actually create. But everyone knows it takes a long time to make a painting. And we don't got all day. So you're going to just take pieces of it. And some of y'all are already thinking this. Bob Ross on PBS, remember? He basically proved this concept. Everyone likes watching someone paint. But it's not just that. It shows your expertise, because it's almost like you're training people. You don't have to. You can just be giving your opinion of why you create, whatever it is you create. But it sets you up to be an expert in the eyes of everyone who watches you. And there's so many things you can do. I mean, like I listed here, whether you're into sculpting, jewelry making, pottery, ironwork, sewing, whatever it is, whatever your process or your art is. If I can't do it, I love watching people do it. It's kind of like glass blowing. You ought to look up glass blowing on YouTube. I just think it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And watching them do that is fascinating. I could just watch that all day. That's what I mean. I'm not a glass blower. I probably will never do glass blowing, but I love watching it. And so if what you create is art, then let people behind the scenes, let people watch you build a piece of art. And here's the deal. At the end, you're probably going to sell it, because people got invested in what you were doing and they understood the meaning of what you created because you told them. It made it special. And you got to remember, people buy art because there's a story behind it. And so when you do that video, you can create that story. And that way, when they hang it in their home and they have a party at their home and someone comments on the painting, they can go, oh, yeah, the artist created this because of blah, blah, blah. And this is what it means. And people buy art, not because it's a pretty picture, but because it has a story. That's what's going to really sell it. And when you do a time lapse where they see it being built from beginning to end, I guarantee you're going to sell out of it. I know a lot of artists who sell all their artwork this way. They make a video and they've sold it. And sometimes it's so popular, they even sell prints of it because so many people wanted it. And yes, it will drive the price of your art up, and that's a good thing. Let's see. I need to look at my chats. Here's one from Patricia. What app is used to edit a video? I have short videos that I've taken up my process of candle making, but I don't know how to edit it to be one time lapse video. Well, in YouTube, there actually is a built-in editor in YouTube you can play with, but there's a lot of really easy to use editors out there. And this is where you will need to learn a little about video editing, and just a tiny bit. I'm not saying you need to be as good as the people at news stations and putting together video. There's a lot of really good video editors on your phone. that you can download. And I know a lot of people who will film it on their phone, and then there's apps, free apps you can get that will help edit them together, lay down some copyright-free music, and then even publish them to YouTube, all on your phone without ever putting them on computer. And so just look them up. They're changing all the time. And ask a young person. Ask anyone under 18, and they can probably tell you a really good video editing piece of software that they use on their phones. And that would be a good place to start, by the way. I don't have any particular one that I use. And the one I use, I really don't want to mention because it's like the one the experts really use. It's Adobe Premiere. But if you've never done video editing, it's like looking at the cockpit of a 747, okay? So I'm not recommending that at all to beginners at all. But there's a lot of apps out there that let you do some very basic video editing. Just go to your app store and do a search on that. Okay. Number 7, challenge for a nonprofit. And I get this from the Ice Bucket Challenge by the ALS Foundation. And it was the most popular thing they ever did. It made more money for them than every other effort that they had. And you remember the Ice Bucket Challenge was that you would donate a certain amount of money to ALS, and you would then dump ice water over yourself and film it and post it. But then at the end, you would challenge other people to do the same. The key is to make it fun but easy. Don't make it complicated. And keep in mind what made the Ice Bucket Challenge fun was seeing people's reaction. We all love watching people's reaction. And the more famous the person, the more interesting it was because they're doing something that makes them not look pretty in the end, you know, and you see who they really are. You see everyone is going to just gasp when that ice water hits them. You know, and we love watching a real reaction. So this is actually a very brilliant thing that they did. Make it easy. And there's other challenges that have come up. Challenge others publicly is the key. That's how you make this go viral. That's exactly how you make it go viral, is by challenging others, and then it just kind of spreads itself. Use your product in the challenge if you can. That's how you're going to tie it to your company. Now, keep in mind, you really want the focus to be on the nonprofit. But if they're using your product, you might get a little branding out of it. Number 8, show how your product is made. We all know what is that, TLC or the Science Channel, where how it's made, where you're watching a factory make candy or golf balls or whatever. I love watching that. It is perfect if what you have is a factory, if what you have is a process, you know, where there's a conveyor belt or something, because everyone likes watching machines. If you have some really cool machines, people can be fascinated by that. Narrate what they're watching though. You know, it's kind of like that, how it's made on TV. I need to know what I'm looking at, you know, and so that can be a lot of fun. Keep in mind what you're going to get out of this besides branding is it shows the quality of your product, and it shows what's all goes into making a golf ball and why you do this certain thing, because if you don't, it can throw it off. You know what I'm saying? It really shows the quality. Now, I'm not saying give away any industry secrets, but what I am saying is people love watching this kind of thing, and it shows the quality of your brand. Number 9, film a hidden reaction. Okay. Basically, the way it works is hide cameras and get the reaction to something. The best reactions, I'll be honest, are fear and disgust. Now, what do I mean by this? A good reaction might be letting someone try something to eat, you know, and maybe one of them is something good, and 2 the other things are all bad, and then filming them, okay? Or maybe it's jumping out and scaring them and catching it on hidden camera. You know, maybe your character, whatever it is you've created, your logo, whatever it is, has a character associated with it. Maybe him jumping out on corners, scaring people. You know, just have fun with it. But the best reactions are fear and disgust. Like disgust at eating something terrible. That's why Fear Factor is out there. Popular show. And fear, being scared. Love that. You're going to get some boring reactions, like people going, oh, I know you were there. Or, oh, I know what this is. I'm not going to fall for that. No, you're going to get a lot of those. So ignore those and go with the good reactions. It's kind of like, oh, what was that late night TV show uh, uh, where he would film people on the street getting their answers to questions that they should know the answer to, about politics and stuff, and he would only show the ones that gave the most crazy answers, almost embarrassing. He wouldn't show the people who knew the answer because that's boring. So ignore boring reactions. It must be entertaining. That's really the key here. It's got to be entertaining. And you got to be careful, okay? Because you remember, your company has to have a positive come out of this. You don't want people going, oh, they were mean. Oh, they're mean. No, you don't want that reaction, okay? So have fun with it. And that's why many times the good reactions you get where they're going, oh my gosh, they jump and they act like they're having a heart attack. Get them afterward going, oh, you really got me. That was funny. You're smiling and laughing. We need to see that happy ending and not think that they had a coronary. And also, it must not, like I said, it must not be negative towards your brand. I don't want, like I said, people saying, oh, that was mean, something like that, okay? Avoid that at all possibility. But you can get a lot of really cool reactions out of people. Last one, film a competition. In other words, come up with some sort of competition involving your product, like like a hot dog eating contest. If what you make is hot dogs, or how many of this people can be stuffed into one of our phone booths, or think of a competition that people can do involving your product or service. The key is to choose enthusiastic participants. People are going to have fun. You don't want someone ultra competitive who gets all hateful, okay, and mean and overly competitive. You want fun people and get diverse people. Don't make it all big football players. Get a mix of people, okay? Someone people can root for. Choose high social participants. Now, what I mean by that, high social, are people who have a pretty strong social media game, because people love when they see themselves on camera to share that video out with their followers. So find people who already have a large following. This is a little trick. Choose it, and that's also good on interviewing too. Choose people with very high numbers of followers and involve them in the competition, because they're going to end up sharing this out to all their followers, and it'll just give you some viral out of it. And once again, you've got to utilize your product or service somehow in this competition and have fun with it. And maybe the winner gets something, or maybe they donate to their favorite charity and you even get some good community vibes out of it. And then, of course, get them to share the video. If it's something dangerous you're asking them to do, something physical, jumping around, stuff like that, have them sign waivers, might even get some event insurance, just in case. Remember, people, the purpose of a video, hear me, listen, the purpose of a video is to either educate or entertain. That's it. That is the only reason people are going to watch. Now, you're going to get expertise out of it. You're going to get branding out of it. But your video had better either teach me how to do something or make me laugh. I'll be honest, okay? Those are going to be the reasons people watch your video. Be yourself. Don't pretend to be someone else. Please don't pretend to be someone else. Be exactly who you are, because who you are is interesting. That's how you have your business. That's why people like you. That's why you have friends, is because people like who you really are. And if you try to be someone else, people are going to be onto that. Ugh, they can see that a mile away. Yeah, I don't want you to just be a talking head. No scripting. This is big. Don't write a script of what you're going to say in your video. Don't ever do that, because then you'll end up doing this. Hi, my name is Eric. Welcome to my video. It's going to sound so false and fake, because you're going to be focused on the words you're getting in the right order rather than what you're saying. I have no script for my videos. Every video I've ever done, I have the points on my PowerPoint to keep me on track, but I just talk, and I talk in a normal voice. In fact, you'll probably hear me not even use complete sentences. You must brand yourself. Remember, doing a video is fun, but in the end, it's got to help your company in some way. And always, 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 the last thing here, give a good CTA at the end, a good call to action. Always tell them what to do, where to go, how to get more information, more videos to watch. Always, always, always do that at the end. Whew. I told you there was going to be a lot in this video about videos, but remember, this is what I do. This is what I love. And I know it can work for your company too.
You know, I always want to jump online when you're talking and then you bring me back to the webinar because I'm like, I'm going to try this. So I think the first thing is try it, right?
Exactly. And
yeah.
I'll give you a real quick tip. I tell people all the time, people, if you're nervous about talking on a camera, take your camera in your closet and I want you to record yourself talking. Just talk to yourself, talk to the camera as if it's a friend. And then you're going to watch it, but don't show it to anybody else. You're going to watch yourself and then you're going to delete it. Then you're going to do it again. You're going to film yourself for about 5 minutes, just talking to the lens and just pretending you're talking to someone else. Then you're going to watch it. Don't show it to anyone else. Then you're going to delete it. You got to get used to seeing yourself on video and you got to get used to talking to that lens. That way it works and it works every time. And the key is because you're not showing it to anybody else.
And you have to just try it because, you know, you have to, like you said, be real, be yourself.
Yes.
I think that's, yeah. And are you ready for your, you get so many great comments. Okay, thank you, Eric. I appreciate your real and you are everything you mentioned in this course. Love your energy and expertise. Of course, we do.
Oh,
thank you for your, I know, thank you for your time. And then you do have a question. Do videos always have to be edited in order to look pro?
No, like what Emmett did with his unboxing video, there was no intro, there was no outro. He just filmed himself for like a couple of minutes and then just posted that video and he still got a lot of benefit from it. And that comes across as real and genuine. So no, you don't have to immediately go into all the editing and all the other stuff, you know, and you can do your own intro and outro on each one without in a single shot, you know, so don't feel like you have to be a video editing pro. You'll just use that as an excuse not to make a video.
So let's make sure we got this right. Make sure your lighting is good and you've got it kind of set up and then just go for it, right?
Exactly. And look at that lens.
Look at that lens. Look at that lens. All right, I'm going to I'm going to put things in my blender right now. Learned a lot and was entertaining as well. Thank you so much. You know, I feel like the last 5 minutes I'm always reading the compliments because you do such a great job. So that's it for us today, guys. You guys have a great rest of your week and we'll see Eric next time. Bye, everybody.